And guess who we've got in studio with us right now? Mr. Mark Keefe, the editor-in-chief of American Rifleman. Mark, how you doing tonight?
Great, Cam. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Glad you could come in studio this evening.
Well, this is my first time in studio. This is kind of impressive.
I know. Usually when we reach you, you're out on the road working on American Rifleman or American Rifleman TV. I'm glad we caught you on one of your few down evenings.
Yeah, thank you, Cam. It's funny. Sometimes you catch me in my library. You know, I go down there and hide at night sometimes, and you guys, well, find me.
We're good that way. 1-866-NRA News, 866-672-6397 is the number to call if you have a question for Mark. I'm going to get things started, actually, because I would have loved to have been able to have you on the show when we were out there in Las Vegas for the SHOT Show, but you're working pretty much from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to bed at night. I mean, you are talking with industry leaders. You're looking at all the new guns. So tell us, how was SHOT for you?
I think it was my 19th SHOT Show. So really the blush has worn off a little bit, but I love to go and see what the manufacturers are excited about. And this year, there were a lot of new guns in a lot of new categories. Perhaps the most interesting trend that I identified, we wrote some blog pieces for AmericanRifleman.org about significant trends. And the most interesting thing is that 380, which was all the buzz just a couple of short years ago, and last year in particular, a lot of people bought 380s because they're small and they're compact. And, it's better to have a small light gun that you carry than a big, heavy 45 that pulls your pants down and that you decline to carry.
Right.
So we're seeing a transition. 380 is on the edge in terms of a defensive caliber. But now we are seeing just a whole surge of 9mm compact single-stack guns. And the gun that's leading the charge for me is the Kimber Solo 9. And it's a 6-shot, and I could look up the details for you. But basically, it's a small, compact 9mm, aluminum frame, stainless steel slide, 6-round capacity. But what's very interesting to me is instead of the normal surfaces of a barrel and slide interacting, they've got these kind of couple of grooves there that kind of help the cartridge in. Has excellent ergonomics, and that's at the high end. At the middle range, you've got a brand new Ruger, which is basically the Ruger LCP upsized to 9mm. So you join those guns together with the more established guns like the Car and such, the Rohrbaugh, and I think the next wave is the ultra-compact 9mm carry gun, and they were very well represented at the SHOT Show this year.
Interesting. Obviously, another pistol that very well represented the 1911. It seems everybody had their commemorative 1911 out this year.
You know, it's funny. For a 100-year-old gun, they sure seem to want to sell a lot of them. You know, this year is very special. As a matter of fact, we've got some TV shows coming. We've got a big 1911 centennial issue coming in the June issue of American Rifleman, and I actually have assigned an author a story to do just try and barely touch the surface of all the 100th anniversary guns. And they range from, just a company's regular 1911, like Auto Ordnance. They did a commemorative gun. They got out the engraver and they wrote, 1911 to 2011.
Right.
And it's kind of cool. It's a gun they've been making for a few years now. And then you get all the way into, Colt, for example, made just a beautiful gun that's going to be auctioned at the interannual meetings. And I don't know all the details about it, but I hear it has $17,000 worth of gold on it plus 200 hours worth of engraving.
Wow.
So you're really running the gamut. And this is an amazing year for me because I've always been a 1911 guy. My oldest 1911 was made in August of 1916 at the U.S. National Armory at Springfield, Massachusetts. And then I've got a Springfield 1911 that was made 2 years ago, and quite a few in between. And this classic design has really stood the test of time. I mean, it has an excellent trigger. It with upgraded sights, it's got good sights, but it's utterly reliable, and it's in America's caliber, 45 ACP. And you would think there was a time that even the executives at Colt thought, well, why are we making this old thing? And today, there are more 1911 makers than at any point in history. And they just keep increasing. There's one big company, I can't divulge it because they asked me not to, that's going to be introducing a 1911, and you're going to act surprised, Cam.
Okay.
But you look at the breadth of companies. You You have people like Sig Sauer. Sig Sauer, you know, P228, 226, 229, Navy SEALs, NIS, you know, police forces. Yeah, they make a 1911. And they're not alone. Taurus, for example, you know, they have an all-forged 1911 made in Brazil, one of two major forging operations that makes them. So this is a worldwide gun. When you look at the guns made in the Philippines. I mean, the Philippines? Are you kidding me? A lot of your lower-priced imports actually come from the Philippines. So this is not only an American design, it's become a worldwide design.
All right, let's go to the phones here. 1-866-NRA News, 866-672-6397. We're talking with Mark Keefe, the editor-in-chief of American Rifleman. And let's start tonight with Bart in California. How you doing tonight, Bart?
Hey, Ken and Mark, thanks a lot for taking my call.
You bet. What's on your mind?
Hey, you know, I've got a little information. I got the Taurus Judge, you know, Taurus has always been kind of a substandard pistol, I'd say. And I know that Smith & Wesson was coming out, or they came out with their version of the Judge, and I know it issued or introduced out there at the SHOT Show, and I haven't heard anything else out about it. Did you, by chance, get a chance to get your hands on that and try that thing out, see how it looked?
Yeah, the Smith & Wesson gun is called the Governor,
Okay.
and it's interesting. You know, I wouldn't necessarily call Taurus a substandard manufacturer.
No, I wouldn't either, actually.
Because I've been in their plant, and they have a lot more CNC machines than you would believe, and they control every aspect of their production. Their engineering is excellent. You know, Taurus has come a long way. I'm not going to say it's the perfect company, but there was a time that their guns had some quality control issues, and any company even today is going to have quality control issues. But I wouldn't write them off automatically because they have.
I mean, you pull the trigger and it goes bang, and I guess that's what you want it to do. You just want something a good gun. You know, you're talking about the 1911s, and I'm like, wow, what do we start on there? I got a nice Kimber that when you put it in your hand, it's like butter. You know, you can't compare that to a Taurus. It's like a matchbox gun. But I'm getting off our point, and what I just wanted to talk about are just kind of get your impressions of the Smith & Wesson. I know Smith & Wesson is just a great weapons manufacturer. When you put that in your hand, you know you've got a piece of metal in your hand, and you know it. You know, just in case you run out of bullets, you can always hit them over the head with it. And that's why I wanted a pistol. So I just wanted to see if you had your and
I do, yeah. The gun is called the Governor, and which is kind of a little play on words, of course, because the Taurus is the judge and governors appoint judges, unless, of course, they're federal judges or they're elected. So you got a little bit of a marketing war going on. But the Smith & Wesson, the samples I saw were beautifully made, and they employ a scandium frame, which is really an aluminum alloy frame that incorporates trace elements of scandium, which I had to look it up on the periodic table, by the way. I didn't believe them at first, but it is a real element. And so it's very lightweight. And it takes 2.5-inch 410 shells as well as 45 Colt. And then the other thing too is if you end up with a gun like this, you got to remember 45 Schofield is out there. It's shorter than the 45 Colt, less recoil, a lot of fun for plinking, and they're fairly heavy guns in that category just because of the sheer cylinder mass. But the really cool thing about the Governor is it accepts 45 Colt, 410 bore shot shells, and then they incorporated something really cool. So if you're going to be late to the 410 revolver party, you might as well have something cool.
All right.
And this is the fact that this gun can accept full moon, half moon, or third moon clips and 45 ACP. So not only can you shoot 45 Schofield, 45 Colt, 410 bore, you know, birdshot, buckshot, slugs. Now you can use these little clips because the cylinder is actually recessed so that you can drop these clips in. The 45 ACP, my favorite pistol cartridge, it's rimless. So you drop a 45 ACP in most revolvers, unless it's cut for it, they're just going to drop right through. But this uses the clip, which was invented by Smith & Wesson, by the way, in 1917 for the U.S. Army because they couldn't make enough 1911s. So with this Governor, you can use 45 ACP too. And the quality on the gun looks very good. I only saw pre-production guns. I didn't get a chance to shoot it. One of my guys did. He said it shot. It wasn't too bad with a 2.5-inch 410. And you know it's made in Springfield, and I think it's going to be about suggested retail like $749, something like that. And they'll probably sell for less in gun stores. But it looked to be a quality gun, and if you're a Smith & Wesson guy, now you got a choice.
All right. Let's go back to the phones here. 1-866-NRA News, 866-672-6397. We're talking with Mark Keefe, the editor-in-chief of American Rifleman magazine, and Mike in Minnesota. Welcome to Cam & Company.
Howdy, guys.
Hey, thanks for calling in, Mike. What's on your mind?
Well, I got a 9mm Smith & Wesson that I use for my carry now, and I've been looking at an Ultra Carry 2 Kimber in the 45, and I was just kind of wondering what his opinion is on it.
Well, Kimber builds an excellent 1911, no doubt. Kimber sort of revolutionized how 1911s are sold. So for the features that you get on an Ultra Carry in particular, I have one too. Really, you're getting all the top-notch features. You're getting your lowered and flared ejection port. You're getting your beaver tail grip safety. It's basically got custom features for a factory price. And as long as you're comfortable carrying a single action, cocked and locked, it's as good a choice as you are ever going to make.
Okay, even because I was looking at like the 3-inch barrel, easy concealed.
Yeah, I mean you're still looking at a 45 ACP here. I mean it's only going to get so small. And but they take the edges off the right surfaces. You get yourself a good holster, in particular an inside the pants holster where it tucks in. It's not terribly high. As I said, it's a 45 ACP. It's only going to get so small. However, I found them to be extremely reliable pistols, pretty accurate for the barrel length. Really, it's more of a sight radius problem at that point. So, but for typical defensive range kind of uses, it is a great gun.
All righty.
All right. Hey, Mike, thanks for calling in tonight, sir. It's good talking to you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, you have a good night. Evening. I would say stay warm, but you're in Minnesota, so I will say look forward to spring. All right, it's 36 after the hour here. We're going to take a quick time out. The good news, Mark is going to stay with us for the next segment as well, so we'll take more of your phone calls here at 1-866-NRA News. Cam Edwards in studio with me tonight, Mr. Mark Keefe from American Rifleman, editor-in-chief there, also the host of American Rifleman Television. 1-866-NRA News. 866-672-6397 is the number to call. We'll be getting to the phones here in just a moment. But both Doug and Bob have written in, Mark, and they are wondering what your thoughts are on the new Keltec Bullpup shotgun.
Oh, I got to tell you, I haven't confirmed this, but there's a guy that used to work for me that ended up moving to Turkey and making shotguns, a guy named Ted Hatfield. And he was unable to make a show a couple years ago, but he sent one of his business partners. And this guy literally ran me down in the aisle with this briefcase.
Yeah.
And, when guys you don't know from a country you're not from are trying to run you down, you get a little concerned.
Right.
But then they said, no, we are friends of Ted. And they pull this thing out, and it is a bullpup shotgun, dual feed, but the magazine tubes were on top. And so I looked at it and declared it pretty cool. And I met with Ted not too long ago, and I got a chance to shoot a prototype. And he said he's a very energetic guy who has lost digits in machines. He's been making guns his whole life, so he has less fingers than you and me.
Yeah.
And he goes, "It's really cool." And sure enough, it was. We shot it, and sure enough, next thing you know, he had told me, well, this is going to be made out of polymer, and that's going to be made out of polymer. And then I get the release on the Keltec. I'm like, I haven't confirmed it with Ted. I didn't get a chance to talk to George Kellgren at the show. They look very similar. So either they're working together or there's some patent infringement going on. But that Keltec shotgun is just really cool. It's one of those ideas where you're going, why didn't I think of that? And ergonomically, it's excellent. The prototype I fired was actually extremely manageable, and it can put a lot of shells out. Now, I didn't get a chance to shoot the Keltec version of this gun, but I got a chance to handle it and look at it. George Kellgren is really a genius. I remember the Grendel pistol that he designed, and my then boss, and I won't give him up because it's a little humiliating for him, believed that he could take any gun apart. And sure enough, he took this pistol apart, and then he called me down to his office, and he had this board with all these pins and various protrusions, and he had me pushing springs and moving stuff in. to just try and get it apart enough to send back, because he would never send a gun back in pieces. So if you own a Keltec and the manual says do not disassemble beyond this point, they mean it. They're serious, because you're not going to get it back together. But I had this gun all apart, took it apart there in the booth, and mechanically it looks great. Ergonomically, it's awesome, and if it's the same prototype, it was a lot of fun to shoot, and I think a lot of guys are going to absolutely love this gun.
All right. Let's go to the phones here at 1-866-NRA News, 866-672-6397. John has been patiently waiting in Oklahoma tonight. How you doing, John?
I'm doing pretty good, trying to keep from getting killed here, but
I'm sure. You talking about the weather, or are you living in a bad neighborhood?
the roads.
The roads. All right. Yeah. Well, drive safe while you're on the phone with us here. What's your question tonight?
Well, I was wondering about something tickled my sense of irony. He talked about how so many of the lower end, price wise, 1911s come from the Philippines, and the fact that the 45 ACP and the 1911 came about because of the Philippine insurrection. I thought that was kind of ironic.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, and yes, the irony is not lost on me either. At my there's a wonderful book. It's a bit macabre, called "Gunshot Injuries" by Dr. Lagarde, and of course he was part of the famous Thompson-Lagarde tests. And back then, their sense of ballistic performance and testing was a little different from ours. They shot a lot of beeves, which apparently is plural for beef, and cadavers. They shot a lot of cadavers and measured the oscillation. But yeah, the 45 ACP cartridge came about as a result of the severe ballistic failure of the 38 Long Colt, adopted by the U.S. military in 1889 in the Colt double action series. And, they got, the whole theory of the high velocity small bore bullet was very sexy at the time. Foot-pounds of energy are foot-pounds of energy, right? Well, apparently not so much. Not a lot of complaints chasing the Spanish about Cuba. One very cool thing, by the way, Theodore Roosevelt had one of these double-action Colts. Yeah. And again, the irony, the gun he carried when he went up Kettle and San Juan Hill with the Rough Riders had actually been salvaged from the arms room of the USS Maine. So that's a little in your face to the Spaniards.
Oh, wow.
But they had severe performance problems. The Moros in the Philippines were a very fierce Highland tribal people, and as fierce Highland tribal people like to do, they like to oppress less fearsome lowland people. Mm-hmm. And seeing as the United States was protecting the Philippines, we had a governor general there. The complaints made it to him, and then they sent in the U.S. military to put down whatever unpleasantries were going on. And the Moros were terribly fierce people, and they had some very nice edged weapons, including Moros and bolos. And they found that this 38 Long Colt looked very good, and it was the latest thing, the swing-out double-action revolver, very sexy back then. The problem is they'd shoot people with it, and then they'd still lop off your arms. And so they started reissuing Colt single-action armies in 45 Colt, and it spawned the Lagarde tests, Thompson-Lagarde test. Brigadier John Tolliver Thompson, you may have heard of him. He has a gun too. And but anyway, they decided that 45 should be the caliber, and John Browning worked with Colts, and they came up with the better mousetrap.
All right. Let's go back to the phones here. 1-866-NRA News, 866-672-6397. Talking with Mark Keefe, the editor-in-chief of American Rifleman magazine. And we'll talk to Jerry in Alabama. How you doing, Jerry?
Hi.
Hey, thanks for calling in tonight. You got a question for Mark?
Yeah, I got a Ruger PD90. It's a 45 ACP. Basically, it's a nickel-plated sissy pistol. But it jams up, not when you're firing it. If you go to manually slide the slide back with your hands, a lot of times it'll jam up, and you have a hard time trying to get it unloaded. I was looking to replace it with a 45 ACP. I was looking at the Glocks. I want something that's lighter, maybe a little less flashy.
Yeah, nickel plating has always been, well, terribly flashy. I mean, some guys like that look. And me, if I need to signal an airplane, I'll carry a signal mirror.
It was the first pistol I ever bought, and it looked good in the box, but, I've had it for a good number of years, and I don't like it.
Yeah, it's funny, in the time since you bought that gun, and you've had it a while, obviously, and those big Rugers, generally they work pretty well. I'm not sure exactly what issue you're having, but, they're big, heavy guns, big investment cast frames. Bill Ruger loved investment casting, and the problem with investment casting in those days is you needed more material. So, yeah, there's, the good news is there are a lot of options out there for you because in the time since you bought that gun, polymer's really taken over, and polymer is much lighter weight. The big Glocks, hey, if they fit in your hand pretty well, you're not going to do much better. There are a lot of double-action semi-automatic, striker-fired, polymer-framed guns, and that just means that they don't have a hammer. And you have the sort of some form of constant trigger action where all you have to do is point it and pull the trigger. You've got guns from Taurus, you got guns from Springfield, you got guns from Glock, you've got the Smith & Wesson M&P series in .45, you've got the big Beretta Storms. There are a lot of great guns for you to choose from out there if you want to go a little lighter but keep that same .45 ACP power. Probably the best thing to do is when you get a chance, go into a gun shop and tell the guy behind the counter, you know what? I want a big .45 ACP that weighs a lot less than my current boat anchor, and show me what you got.
Hey, Jerry, thanks so much for the phone call tonight, sir. It's a real pleasure getting a chance to talk with you. 1-866-NRA News, 866-672-6397 is the number to call. I don't know where the hour has gone, Mark. Can't believe we only have like 5 minutes left. Ron in South Carolina wonders, please ask Mark what he thinks of the Glock 36 single-stack 45 ACP as a carry gun.
The only downside to the Glock as a carry gun, when you get to single stack, is slide width. And it depends on your body type. It depends on your concealment method. Glocks, the thing about a Glock is you point it at what it needs to shoot at, and you pull the trigger, and it works every time. And the ergonomics on the pistol are very good. But when it comes to a Glock or any of the sort of full slide width guns, the height is very good on that gun in terms of concealment. It's the width of the slide. The current generation of guns have narrower slides, so they're a little easier to conceal. But you get the right holster, you wear the right clothes, and you can hide that gun no problem.
All right. Let's see. Speaking of holsters, Walt is in Colorado with a holster-related question. How you doing, Walt?
Hi, doing real well, thanks. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet. What's on your mind?
Well, I heard you talking about inside-the-pants holsters, and I've been looking for something like that. I have a Springfield XD 45, and I was wondering what type of or what brand of inside-the-pants holster would be a good one for me to look at for that.
Man, that's how much time do you have? No, it's funny. The first thing about an inside-the-pants holster that you have to realize is that you have to buy pants that are bigger than you normally buy. And when you're carrying a gun, you have to buy fat man pants. You have to go up usually about 2 inches to comfortably carry the gun. And then when you're not wearing a gun, it looks like you're either sick or you lost a lot of weight. There's plenty of different companies out there. I actually have a 45 XD, just like you. I've got a couple XDs actually. In case you didn't, I have a few guns. I know some guys. And I actually, and I can't recall the exact model number, but I have a Galco that I use. But a lot of other good companies make great holsters. So I would actually search by gun name, and then see if you can find one that's got the features that you like. Just go ahead and Google it, or you can go to one of the big distributors like Midway or somebody like that, or even Dillon's has got a really good holster selection. Get on their website and see what looks good to you. But just remember that when you go to inside the pants carry, you have to kind of change your lifestyle a little bit.
All right, there you go, Walt. Either lose some weight or just buy a bunch of bigger pants.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll try to lose the weight plan.
Hey, well, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate the phone call tonight. 52 after the hour. We've got time for at least one more phone call here with Mark Keefe, the editor-in-chief of American Rifleman magazine and the host of ARTV as well. Darren is in New Mexico. How you doing tonight, Darren?
Pretty good.
All right. You got a question for Mark?
Yeah, it's on the. I've got a 4570 Springfield rifle, and the distance on the rounds, about 300 yards. I mean, it just starts dropping rock. Is there any other round out there, or I was even considering, casting my own bullets for it?
Well, the first thing that you need to understand about the 4570 is that even though the U.S. Army Ordnance Department thought it was a long-range cartridge, they hadn't really discovered the whole smokeless powder, small bore, smaller, lighter bullet that was aerodynamically efficient going farther. So 4570, especially once you get to 300, does start dropping like a rock. What kind of rifle are you using?
That I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head.
See, the problem with 4570 factory loads is really the factory loads, according to SAMI specifications, are downloaded to the point that they are safe in the weakest gun that they make 4570 for, and that's the and nobody actually Pedersoli makes one now, but that's the Trapdoor Springfield, which is a fairly weak action.
Okay.
So there are companies that if you have a modern firearm like a Marlin or something like that, chambered for 4570, the loads are hotter. The one thing I might suggest if you're trying to get a little better ballistic performance out of your 4570 is to go to the new Hornady flex tip loads. Because most 4570s are not pointed bullets. If you end up with a more aerodynamic projectile with a better ballistic coefficient, it's going to help you a little more at long range. But you start looking at the ballistic tables, and, well, 4570, like you know, drops like a rock.
Hey, Darren, hope that helps you out, sir. Appreciate the phone call tonight. And that music means hour one is in the history books. That was the quickest hour of Cam & Company on record. Mark, I cannot thank you enough, sir, for coming in studio. Please let's do this again when your schedule allows it.
Great. Thanks, Cam. It's really a pleasure to be here with you in the studio, to talk to folks, and just talk about guns, because I do that a lot.
You do, and you do it very well. Mark Keefe, the editor-in-chief of American Rifleman magazine, host of ARTV. We'll be back with hour two of Cam & Company right after this.